Hello, my friends. Happy Feral Monday. I missed y'all so much last week, but thank you so much for just letting me spend some extra time with Mama, the family. We had such a good time, but I'm back. I will have to hop out of town on a business trip I'm going to do a tutorial tomorrow because I'm going to leave for the airport, and then I'm going to try to fit one in on Wednesday, and then I come back home on Thursday. But it shouldn't be that disruptive at all. I am back. So I'm thinking about doing, oh, look at this. I'm thinking about doing a navy smoky eye. I'm about to swatch this on my face. And remember, just wait till you see it with back camera. And there's actual rainbow sparkle in there. Okay, let's get this. Let's get this on my eyeballs. So one of the easiest ways to start a smoky eye is to grab a warm brown shadow. Now I'm gonna say a warm brown because I feel that warm on just about any skin tone, even though I have a cool skin tone, a warm crease just really kind of complements the depth that we're about to add and how dark these shadows are going to be. It can be more, I want to say the word forgiving, because cool tones can kind of make you lose your way, even though we could do the cool tones, but they're a little disheartening because cool tones can just look not as fun and pretty during the process. But warm is a good place to start, especially if you're not used to doing smoky eyes, when it's harder to see that ending, when it's hard to see it all come together and we're not used to trusting the process. All right, now we have our base laid down, and I'm using an E29 just to kind of get this all over. I don't worry too much about the lid. Don't worry about it being perfect there, but we did want a little bit of a transition to make sure it's nice and smooth. And using the side of a brush, even a fluffy brush like this one, is going to help make sure that this is really even across the lids. And the reason we want it really, really even is because it's gonna wear so much better that way. And then another really good tip, even before we add any more transition, take your bronzer. Take the one that you're gonna use. I think I'll use this little bit more red one today. And I'm gonna take the tiniest amount, okay? Tiny itty bitty. These are super pigmented, by the way. And I'm gonna add that in there, and that's gonna tie in later. Once we get our base and bronzer on, it's really gonna look seamless. And I'm tapping to transition that into the almost dried down liquid shadow. Slip of the hand, I forgot to tag this one. This is the NYX bronzer, but you're gonna see it later, but I'll tag it for right now. And I'll just let you watch this blend out. Bug's actually snoring today. Ooh, yeah, there's that transition. All right, so think about where we're at in terms of this. We have our warmth laid down, and then we have our transition laid down. We're gonna start to add depth now. Depth doesn't mean that we're going into black yet. We will get into the black, but we need to add our first touch of depth. Ooh, I feel good. We're going in depth. I've missed this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into this shade. This is the Patrick Ta palette, and I love, 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 love this palette. So we want a very dark brown at this stage, and also notice that I switched to a smaller brush. Are you noticing that? Notice that I'm tapping it in there. By tapping, we're packing it, and you're also not gonna run the risk of it becoming patchy. Anytime you start to swipe and you have a lot of pigment you're dealing with, you run the risk of it becoming very patchy and even changing colors. So that's what happens when you overblend. What is overblending? It's when the shadow starts to separate and become a different color. And that's why we're going to switch to a smaller brush. Not only do we have more control, obviously the fibers from our particular line are very different. You're not really going to find them. And also, when you have a smaller brush and you do these little pressing motions, that color stays exactly the way that it looks in the pan. The pressing technique, I don't really see a lot of people do it other than me, but I swear by it. And I've been doing it for so many years, and the brushes are all designed with that in mind. And even the fiber kind of lends itself to this pressing technique. But one thing you don't ever see around these parts is patchy eyeshadow. You don't. Oh, and I forgot to tell you this. So as I was pressing that darker shadow, I don't have any on here, we're just reenacting. Notice that I didn't let that brown come too far out of the socket. Once this starts to escape any higher up, that's when the smoky eye betrays you. So that's why we use the small brush and the pressing motions, not only to make sure it wasn't patchy, but to also control it so it didn't creep up too high. Because really and truly, if it gets past, say, here, ooh, it gets wild. Then it is a little harder to correct it too. So I'm just using the side of the brush, nothing on it. I'm just gonna soften a little bit more now. But I'm actually excited to show y'all my kind of travel airport makeup tomorrow and what I use. It's gonna be really fun. And really and truly, I never want y'all to feel that you need to do as much as I do, because even my airport makeup is a lot. I don't wear lashes or anything like that, but I know that it could still be considered so much. So don't feel like it's something you need to implement into what you do, but remember, makeup is my passion. So 42 steps is normal to me. That's not how many steps it is, but I'm just saying we're all different. But do remember that sometimes makeup is just fun and exciting for some, but then for someone like me, it's just my passion. It's my art. Now we need a tacky black base. The black is going to enhance. Even though this is pretty opaque in a very good way, I still think that something like that just needs a black base. So what a black base does, it's going to enhance really anything that's jewel tone. Think sapphire, think ruby, think emerald. Really just look up jewel tones, and a black base is just going to create that dimension. It's going to lay on top, and you're just going to see that color showing through. This is actually one of my favorite black eyeshadow bases ever, and it's only $6. I'm going to get you a link. And I have so many. I've used this so much. I have so many, but I just feel that this one is just right. Now we just need a really tiny amount. I'm actually going to see how much this is now. Let's make sure I grab the right C31. And we definitely want to C31 for this so we can really even it out. Gotta have that density. Now don't be scared. We're going to take it all the way up to the brown. Make sure we got the gaps filled. I'm actually going to leave this one like that. I forgot I wanted to do that. No big deal. We can finish this part. We'll just do it over here on the side too. We're on the meeting again, y'all. We're in the brand meeting too. Now it's really important that we get this smoothed out, and you don't want too much, because if you have too much base, all it's going to do is eat the sparkle. That's bad. We want it to feel tacky to the touch, but barely. You shouldn't be able to really feel it when you blink, but then you should. It has to be so smooth, but keep that little bit of tackiness. And I know that seems very complicated, but after about 2 tries, you do understand how that feels and what that means. I'm so excited for you to see this with back camera. I cannot recommend these enough. These shadows are just breathtaking. So I'm gonna load up a C30, and I'm using my C30 because it's my fingertip but better. I'm gonna link it, and then making sure I get it pretty coated. And I'm just gonna start to press that into the base. So this one is a little bit more glittery, so we're gonna need to work in sections. But really just, oh my goodness. I want to make sure we coat all of the black base. But then you also want to keep it in the fold. So that little bit right there, just kind of fluff him down. This is stunning. I love makeup so much. Beautiful. Now we're going to grab black eyeshadow. I know. We didn't think it was coming, but here it is. Remember, E27, 2 tiny little taps. It's It's always better to build, and all I'm doing is just kind of pressing this and melting it kind of in between the sparkly shadow and the dark brown. I'm gonna just wipe my brush, grab more black eyeshadow. The reason I wipe my brush is I didn't want to deposit too much sparkle, and sometimes the brush can just pick up a hair of sparkle. And honestly, that's just me nitpicking. You don't have to do that. But I do like to tell y'all everything. Okay, here we go. And then we're gonna clean up the edge over here with some micellar water. Now I think I want to do a sharp edge, so I'm gonna do micellar water C30. So what I mean by sharp edge, sometimes I'll do a little bit more of a blended kind of blurred edge, but I like the idea of a little bit of a lift today. And then I just tap it to dry it. And I'm gonna grab my Sephora waterproof liner. I really like this, but don't forget to shake it. Anytime you pick up something and it makes a jingle like that, give it a really good shake. A really, really good one, like 30 seconds. All right, that should be good. Now I'm gonna do a wing. Then wild. But again, my wild is relative. That could already be absolutely wild for you. But that's just a baby wing for me, little baby. Really like this liner though, y'all. I like it a lot. So this is one of my favorite navy liners. If you're looking for the perfect navy eyeliner, and you also want it to be very long lasting, this one from 𝗕𝗏 is probably my favorite. And ever since I started wearing contacts, I'm a little bit more mindful about not getting product on them. So we're just gonna take a brush, and all I'm doing is so gently just kind of pulling this out a little bit. And then I just go across the waterline. It's so much easier. And I'm not really pulling, but anytime you add pressure there, it just kind of pops it out. So I'm not tugging. No tugging. We know that tugging isn't good, but a light pressure, and then it just pops out and exposes itself there, and it's just so much easier. I still bumped it there on my lid a little, on the contact a little bit, but this is gonna be really, really good advice. Don't talk and do your liner. We're gonna grab these, wear number 10. Wear number 10. You know what? And if remember, I'm gonna finish this one in a minute. But if I'm only getting 10 wears out of this, I'm okay with it. But I like to kind of take it, and I hadn't even really had to clean these. And again, you can't pick the glue off of these, but look at how clean they look. Actually wild. But what I'm doing here is I'm kind of warming it up. And then if you're more afraid to touch the lashes like this, which I completely understand, we try to be definitely careful around our eye, and especially if we're doing clients, which I don't know if I'm going to recommend these for clients just yet. I've had zero issues, but we don't want to mess with something that's so tried and true for something so special and important. But for personal use, 1000%. But if you didn't want to touch the band at all, I feel like you could lightly hit this, but very lightly. We know to be careful with our eye, but you could hit it with a little bit of a blow dryer, and I feel like it would almost instantly activate it. So that's also an option. But I'm just gonna let it sit there for a second. It's already starting to, it's grabbing on my eye right now. It's not falling off whatsoever. But I feel like you definitely could lightly activate it with a blow dryer. I wouldn't even put it on the hottest setting, but I would just give it a little bit of warmth if you don't want to touch it with your fingers. Now, remember, I'm gonna finish this eye later. We'll get there. I'm just gonna get some complexion and probably a lip on. So I'm gonna look a little wild. When do I not? Shaking it up. So we're gonna do corrector. And the reason we're gonna do corrector is when you do these dark shadows, especially if we're adding blue in the mix, it is going to pull things under here that might never be there. But we're gonna do this eye look, and we're gonna look at ourselves in the mirror, and it's pulling everything that we might not enjoy about our under eye and even parts of our face. It is going to enhance them in the worst ways possible. Corrector. Corrector is going to help us get through this together. I know. And I'm gonna use a little bit extra today too. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. We're gonna get in there. I'm still using one that's very thin. We're gonna grab our C31, and the reason we use a smaller one, And I know you're thinking that is so time consuming, but you only really need to use the smaller one where you know you have the creasing the most, and anywhere that you need to get into kind of a little area like this. Y'all, when I designed these brushes, I had already made it my mission to solve all of the makeup problems. I'm still not done solving the makeup problems, but I designed brushes that solve makeup problems. There's a reason I didn't do a 42-piece set. Obviously, I wanted quality. That's so important to me. And I know that the brushes, they're an investment. But I find that if you have that investment made in your brush, it's going to help everything else. But that all being said, this size brush, this density, this shape, these fibers, they make a difference on how it works this in. All right, now that you have it worked in where we have the fine lines, where we have the most movement, where we have these harder to reach areas, now if you're in a hurry, you just switch over here, and this will be back soon too. Can't believe y'all sold this out. I love y'all so much. Boom, fast. But it's still, you know, just think about it. If we're going to put something underneath our eye and we know that we have creasing, we have to put in a little work. Because to me, I'd rather put in an extra 30 seconds than just go boom, 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 okay, done. Because we don't want to have a creasy under eye. We don't want to have to think about it later, and just adding that extra 30 seconds. That's really all it is. It changes everything about your under eye. Let's have fun, right? It's Feral Monday. I'm going to take the bronzer that we use. This is going to go underneath our foundation. I know we're all... No, y'all are used to this. And please. There's two things we don't do here. We don't ever do anything undisclosed. Never. Please keep your... We do snore. We absolutely snore. And that's the doggy. That's Douglas. We don't do anything undisclosed. The first word would be ad. There would be an ad here. And that's not what I'm talking about here. But the second thing we do not do is we do not do silly things for views. Because makeup is already silly enough. It actually is. And that's one of the reasons I got into color corrector, because it is so much fun to watch, but it actually works. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to add this very red bronzer. This is the same one that's in our crease. We're going to add this to the perimeter of our face, and it's going to kind of transform our foundation a little bit. And I know that sometimes when we think Estee Lauder Double Wear, we think, wow, full coverage, but it's really just how much we apply it. And this looks so good. I know you're like, this looks horrifying, but it looks like an actual sunburn. So underneath my foundation, it's gonna look so good. And then you're thinking Estee Lauder Double Wear would cover that up, but I feel like sometimes we forget that even the most full coverage foundation, when you apply it less, and depending on the tool that you use, you can make it anything. All right, we got our makeup spatula. I'm even gonna stir it too. You just can't. I think sometimes if you've ever tried this and you're like, this stuff needs stirred, just remember that. Okay, that's enough. You just sit there for a second. We're gonna grab a C42. Actually, I wanna smooth that a little bit more. There we go. A little underpainting moment. Now we're going to take our C42. By the way, this one's still available on Amazon. And look at how natural that looks already. But this one is still on Amazon, because it is sold out on our website. I'm going to get the Amazon link. And then we use whatever's around it just to go on top. Look at how natural that looks. It just flows on me. Now, another recommendation I want to give you about Double Wear is to not do what I'm doing here, especially if you're not as familiar with the dry time. But for me, I'm very familiar. I know how thin it is across my face. But what I will tell you, just to kind of get used to it, you don't have to do this forever. We're here to learn and grow. But if it's your first time with Double Wear, it's best to work in sections. But if you understand the dry time, then you can do it exactly how I'm doing it right now. Bring it down my neck. This is really satisfying to watch blend, so I'm just gonna let it run. Nice. This is one of my favorite things about the fiber. So we didn't do just a little tinted moisturizer, right? We didn't. And y'all know how we just launched the brush cleaner? And it's like, look at this. Look at how not gunked up the tip of the, oh, there's a gene bean here. But look at how not gunked up the tip of those fibers are. Think about every time you've used any other foundation brush and just how filthy and how the bristles, even a sponge, I'm never mean about sponges. Y'all know I'm the least mean when it comes to even comparing my brushes to other brushes. I would never do that, ever. And I see other brush people do, but I would never do that. It's not about that, but I can be very happy that when I do this much foundation, it looks like that and there's no gunk, and that's going to take me 2 seconds to clean, especially with our new cleanser. I'm very proud of the cleanser too. Oh, it's scent free, by the way. I did have this on. I know I did an ad with it yesterday. We'd used it last week. It was not an ad. This is nice. It's basically, and it's really affordable too, as opposed to, I want to always give options that pair nicely with makeup, and you know my other option is 𝗕𝗏𝘂. So I found this to be very similar in texture to the 𝗕𝗏𝘂 serums that I use, to the way that it wears. So I love it. I already had this on before we started the tutorial. This is not an ad. Dear Lord, if it was an ad, it would say ad in big bold letters. I really never ever have anything to hide from y'all. Not at this point. We've been here too long. We've been doing this too long together. It would just be weird at this point. But yes, love this stuff. And the reason I really wanted to partner with them, not now, but in that last reel, is because it is more affordable, and it feels and wears almost the same as the 𝗕𝗏𝘂. Now I'm not gonna go too bright with my concealer, but I'm gonna go a little bit more full coverage. This is the Hourglass concealer. And this one does need prep, but I will say the primer I just showed you plays really nicely with this one. So if you ever want to do coverage, and I know sometimes and I'll even say I was that person, because I haven't tried it since I've really figured out my skin prep. I didn't like it before I was using the things that I use now, the 𝗕𝗏𝘂, the Laura Geller. So I really think that it takes a second to figure out what prep goes well with it, but we have mastered it. Oh, and if you want to check out my skin prep saved highlight, it's for everybody on there too. I'm just gonna work this in. It's just really, it's a good thing to remember that makeup likes gels and serums, and it shies away from creams and moisturizers. Even if you have extra dry skin, I would still recommend a really hydrating serum under the makeup instead of a really heavy cream. Really will make a difference. Now, smoky tip one, don't ask. I'm sorry. So we're gonna take that navy liner again, and we're just gonna go do a couple taps. And since there's no powder down here, it's gonna be really easy to blend it, right? We're gonna take advantage of that situation. We are. We're gonna grab our 827 again. And you know, this is kind of a baby tip, but no matter what's going on, even if just subconsciously, I always wipe my brush just in case maybe it had some sparkle on there. But now we're just gonna take this and we're gonna just sweep back and forth ever so lightly just to really smoke that out. But that unset concealer is going to make it blend so much easier. But wait, there's more. When I'm doing my more full coverage looks, I like to use this one. It's just a little bit more brightening, a little bit more glam. But remember, look, let me put a little extra powder right on the tip. See that? Or, oh, wait, let's make sure that it's nice and smooth. I'm getting excited. Whee! Okay, we're good. We're not setting any creases. But once we set, we're setting that liner under there as well. That's fun. Extra bright. But I'm just gonna do the pink kind of like a highlight. So anywhere the light's hitting really, really hard, that's where we're gonna set with the pink. And then for the rest of my face, we'll grab a different powder closer to my skin tone. But I'm gonna show you, but I'm just kind of showing you what I'm doing there. This is going to be perfect. So this one's still pretty sheer, but I didn't want to set with that pink powder, so I'm just going to set mostly around the bronzer first and then lightly on top. Now, I didn't want to change the color of our bronzer, so that's why I didn't grab another bronzer, but I also don't want to go too heavy on top of this because it could turn it very ashy. So what I'll do is I'll kind of go around that perimeter first, deposit most of the color, and then with whatever's left, I will lightly go on top just to set the foundation that's on top of that powder bronzer. And whenever you want a more diffused application of powder, we're still going to use this for our blush brush, but I'm here to show you how to use things for multi-use. I never want you to feel like one brush is just for one thing. But whenever you want a diffused application, think about an application that could go on top of bronzer. You would want the C41, and that would be for powder foundation, really anything that you still want to see the color of the product, right? We want to see the color of the blush. We want to see the color of this come through, but we don't want it to have so much coverage that it turns things gray, and we want to be able to transition with it. Then you're going to want the C41. So a fun idea is whenever you're wearing a colorful shadow, think about the color that's on the opposite side of the color wheel. Let me show you. Okay, let me make myself small. So since I'm going to do blue, I'm going to do a little bit more of an orange. And I feel like that's going to, while it's opposite of one another, it's still very complementing. So I'm going to do a coral blush. I'm not going to just do a traditional orangey orange, but I'm going to do something instead of pink or something more mauve. It'll be really fun to kind of add a little bit of that orange there. So that's something to take into consideration. So we're going to grab this one from REM. It's going to be really, really pretty. It's going to add a little bit of brightness, tiny little taps. And I'm just going to apply it kind of through here. And I know that the C41 looks large, but it's really about where you're picking it up. I'm not coating this entire brush. I'm really coating towards the front first, okay? I place and then I use the entire brush to blend. So I'm not picking up the product with the entire brush, just the front. And then once we have it placed, then we continue to blend with the rest of the brush. And then you get the most seamless blend, because sometimes when a brush is so small, you're not going to get just that delicious even transition. So you can still have placement with a brush this large. It's just about remembering where you're picking it up on the brush. I got too excited. This is the REM Beauty. I actually do love this formula. It's a very beautiful formula, very soft, very blurring. You can kind of see how it would go on. See how just blurry that is? So pretty. This shade is called Sun Pop. Remember that very first bronzer? We're going to take a very small amount of that, transition underneath here with that. Same thing over here. Anytime we can do bronzer under here once we're done, it's always a good idea, because bronzer has a very similar color to a corrector, even in this shade. Other shades just when we use our bronzer and we use it underneath here, it does have a little bit, kind of a whisper towards a correcting shade. And now I'm just gonna grab a fluffy brush just to kind of blend this in a little bit more. But no matter what eye look you do, even if you're doing your favorite tried and true eye look, dust a little bit of bronzer as the last transition underneath your eyes. Just trust me on that. I'm going to finish my bottom lash mascara. I bought a new one, by the way, the Firework mascara. And I just got, I remember I bought the waterproof, but I bought another, just the original formula of it. And that's something to look for. If you ever follow a creator and you're really enjoying their content and they do some sort of sponsor content, don't ever be upset with them. Don't think, ugh, don't eye roll. All you gotta do is just look to see if they continue to use it after the ad, if it was released, or if they were using it, if it wasn't released, obviously only after the ad. If they're continuing to use it, the ad was authentic. Or if it was already released and they were using it before the ad, during the ad, and then after the ad, it doesn't matter. I know I look wild. I'm about to be done, but I wanted to finish the look with y'all, and then we'll come back and look at the look with that camera. But I wanted to do a very red nude. I know you're like, what the heck are you talking about? So this shade that I'm using, leans itself, it's still more of a neutral, but it leans itself more red like that bronzer. And this is one of my favorite formulas. This is that Rouge Gel Lip Liner from Sephora collection, and this shade is Hot Sauce. So let's do a rough draft of that. Okay. And when you hear me say rough draft, see how this is all wild? That doesn't matter. Okay, we just need to get that lip liner on because it helps with the shape. It's also easier just to kind of get the lip liner on first, then I want to do this gloss. And these glosses remind me of what MAC used to be. MAC. Swear, they're like, oh, y'all like that? Well, we're going to take it away, and then we're also going to change the formula. But this gloss, this formula, this color, all of the colors, but I do love this color. And then I'm going to grab the lip liner, and then I'm going to perfect it a little bit more. I love these glosses. They do smell like cake, but I love that. And they're super shiny, but they're not crazy sticky. But anytime you have a little bit sticky, you have long lasting. Lip oils don't last. All right, I'm gonna hop off camera, go finish this eye. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I thought I would just do the rest with back camera. The shadow is so pretty. I love y'all so much. I'm definitely gonna be posting tonight. I think I'm gonna post the micellar water rainbow liner. That's right, we're gonna make liner with micellar water because in small amounts, micellar water is just a mixing medium as long as it doesn't have oil in it, which most of them don't because then it's called water. I am confusing you. All right, I love you all so much. I'm so happy to be back. Tomorrow, we're gonna do my airport makeup and I'll be on much earlier because I gotta leave for the airport. But I love you with all of my heart and I'll see you tonight in the comments.